So you got a brand new album out, LA Guns, Leopard Skin. Now you've said there's a famous saying, everyone knows it, a leopard can't change its spots, but they have a million
Right.
different spots and they're all unique, like your band, as you say. So talk us through those different
Yeah.
spots and what they represent in the context of LA Guns.
Well, LA Guns has always been a mishmash of, kind of classic rock, punk rock, metal. We don't do any reggae, unfortunately. We have performed Ballad of Jane in kind of a calypso style
Oh,
live
wow.
before, but I kind of have the freedom to to write whatever styles I'm feeling like, at the time of writing any album at any time. And as long as Phil's singing on it, well, it sounds like LA Guns. So we kind of have that going for us. But yeah, this album's a little bit different than the last four albums, which have been on the heavier side. And I think this album is more what people might consider the classic rock side or the more fun side or, more rock and roll for sure. Little less metal, a little bit more rock and roll. That's the best way I can put it.
Sounds good to me. Now, obviously, a lot of bands from your generation, from your background, if they're still together, they seem content to keep playing their hits. But this is your fifth studio album in what, 7 years? So, what is it that's fueling this work ethic
Yeah.
and your desire to keep creating new music and keep pushing yourself creatively as well?
I mean, I think that's half the thing. Wait, hold on. I have a sheep right here. I got to get off the table. Get down, sheep. Um, I think really, really part of what yeah, of music for me, anyways, and for LA Guns is to it's more about being creative, all the time. Even in a live situation, we take whatever liberties we want when we're playing those songs. And some bands, I guess, they really have a type of hit song kind of thing. They go out there and they play those main songs, and that's it. But man, for me, that it's just too boring. It's just that's not what being a musician is about. And we have these discussions before we go on tour. Because usually we're the second slot on a bigger tour, and we get between 45 minutes and a usual headline set is about 90 minutes. So we have kind of these powwows of well, what are we going to do for these shows and then these longer shows, and what haven't we done in a long time? What are the new things we're going to add? So it keeps it fun. It keeps our brains, working and being creative and being as musical as we can. And, I've said it before, we've kind of been on our farewell tour since 1988. You know what I mean? So it's just about, really going out there and being musical and really bringing it all the time.
And it might sound a silly question, but when it comes to creating new music and writing stuff and getting it down in the studio, are you still enjoying it as much now as you did all the way back in the 80s?
Well, yeah, I mean, because, I've always had that mentality, move forward, move forward, move forward. I find that it's easier, and obviously we have more control because I produce the records now and engineer, and I have a couple other people I work with, and the workflow's easier and better. So it's easier to go from idea to recording, and getting these things, done quicker. So the hobby part of it is just getting more and more enjoyable. And as I get more educated and we get more educated, that never ends. So it's just always some kind of a, hobby arts and crafts project for us. You can
Keeps you
picture
busy.
we're just a bunch of old hippies now, trying to, live out our hippie dreams, and it's like summer camp all the time for LA Guns.
That sounds fun to me. Now, this album, Leopard Skin, we've got a taste of it through the single Taste It, which has for me, a real Rolling
Yeah,
Stones kind of feel to it. The riff in the verse, especially with shades of the band and sleazed it up,
nice.
obviously. So tell us about that first single then. Where did it come from and how
Right.
did it all come together?
First it started with that big giant riff, which is just, walking straight up an E minor natural scale of chords. Um, and, ascending and descending things are really pleasing and somewhat really catchy. That's just psychology, like those kind of melodic progressions really work. So, that one I came up with that first, and then if you stay traditional to rock and roll, which is kind of a blues based thing, then I just go to A, and I had to come up with something, an A, and that is a real Keith Richards kind of riff that's happening in the verse. A lot of people have mentioned, oh, it sounds like AC/DC. It sounds like, it's just rock and roll, really. I mean, it is what it is. And then, kind of something that we haven't really done before, which is so stupid and so small, is the bass line under that riff just pumps, bump, 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 which, you know, it's the easiest thing you could do, but it's really effective. And to me, when we go into the verse, it always gives me this feeling of like Journey. It's just like, oh, here comes that very simple pumping bass line. And yeah, I mean, I think it's really straightforward, and then we get to the nice little guitar breakdown, and which is very Michael Schenker, and I think for the first song coming out, it's a pretty good representation of it's right in the middle of the record, like there's things that are far sleazier, there are things that are far happier, there are things that are much more rude lyrically and vocally. So that's a good way to start. And I just saw the new video today for the next single, which comes out on the 6th, which is a song called Lucky Motherfucker. And then that's where we get cooking.
Ah, because that's teased at the end of
Yeah.
this video, isn't it? At the very end, we
Yeah.
see the sign above the bar.
Yeah. Exactly.
Fantastic. So as you said, it's got feels of classic rock to it, this album. So, but you've also mentioned that you've seen in previous interviews that it's got a bit of soul to it as well, the record, and James Brown and that sort of
It
thing. So
does.
it's a nice melting pot of everything with the sleaze thrown in. So yeah, it's a really interesting mix of record.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing, I figured if, I'm going to kind of go down this, I was just listening to a lot of kind of soul and funk and even Beastie Boys right before I got into writing. It's just like man, this music's so good. And so many great disco classics and things like that. I just had that kind of mood. Um, so the idea is to write in those styles and just make sure the guitars are nasty and Phil's nasty with big drums, the same way that I always produce the records to sound. Um, but definitely this album has way more swing, which would be a good musical adjective. It really swings a lot more. It's a lot less kind of don't bam bam bam. It's not so much that but a lot of Joe Walsh influence on the record, and it's just kind of heavy bluesy rock, but nothing traditional. You won't hear much traditional on it.
It's a fantastic record, and as we said, it's called Leopard Skin. It's going to be out on April 4th on
Yeah, Leopards.
Cleopatra Records, and you can pre-order it now. All the digital sites have got the pre-order stuff, but you can get the physical copy as
Yeah,
well, a CD, vinyl. And I do try and encourage people, if within their means, they can get hold of physical copies because it does really help the bands a lot more, doesn't it? And it's nice to have that physical item to hold and enjoy and look at, isn't it?
yeah. Well, I think if you're an LA Guns fan, that's something that you would be used to anyways. So that's really why we do make the CDs and vinyl. It's so the fans that really want that can get that, and it's for my collection too. I have quite the LA Guns collection, so I make sure that I would be really disappointed if we had a record out that I couldn't buy on vinyl.
Very true. And the vinyl itself, it comes in kind of yellow, white, and black spatter. And there's also signed versions by
Yeah,
your fair hand as well. You've done your scroll on them, and you can
yeah,
get all them online as well.
yeah. I mean, I'm really I went to a meeting with Cleopatra at the Rainbow. Um, and also with Orchard, that's the distributor for the label. And all of a sudden they whip out these boxes of vinyl, go, will you sign these? I'm like, sure. That's why I'm the only one that's got a signature on the album.
It sounds good
I
to
did
me.
that at a business meeting, and Fred Curry was there antagonizing me all the way through lunch. It was a good meeting.
Sounds good to me. So if you want to get hold of one of these signed copies or just a regular copy, if that interests you as well, then
Yeah.
go to the Cleopatra Records website. It's Cleo Rex, that's CleoRecs.com. Search for LA Guns and you'll be able to find it quite easily on there and get pre-ordering this brand new album, which is out April 4th.